The California sun hammered down on Naval Special Warfare Command like a physical weight, turning asphalt into shimmering mirrors of heat. Captain Sienna Reid stepped out of the government sedan, her Marine Corps dress uniform crisp despite the 100-degree afternoon, ribbons gleaming across her chest like earned scars, telling stories most people couldn't bear to hear. The expert rifle marksmanship badge caught the light. 3 gold wreaths surrounded it, the highest designation the Corps awarded. She'd earned every single one through 10,000 hours of practice that separated warriors from weekend shooters, through discipline that didn't negotiate with comfort or convenience. Sienna adjusted her cover and shouldered her rifle case. The worn green canvas was older than she was, older than most of the men watching her from across the parking lot. Inside that case lay a piece of history, a piece of her father, a piece of a war that had ended 4 years before she was born, but had shaped everything she'd become. Navy SEALs clustered near the equipment shed. Their conversations died as she approached. Some crossed their arms. Others exchanged glances that said she was either the bravest person here or the most delusional. A few didn't even try to hide their skepticism, faces showing the kind of doubt that came from never having been proven wrong about anything that mattered. Sienna had expected this. She'd been the first woman in every shooting competition she'd entered since joining the Marines 7 years ago. The doubt, the whispered comments, the barely concealed hostility masquerading as concern. It was old news, background noise she'd learned to tune out. But this was different. This wasn't a local competition or even a Marine Corps championship. This was the Naval Special Warfare Command Advanced Sniper Competition, an invitation-only event where America's most elite marksmen gathered to prove who was deadliest, who deserved to be called a warrior in a world where that word had lost its meaning. And she was the first woman who'd ever qualified to attend. A voice cut through the tension like a blade through silk. "Captain Reid," Sienna turned. A mountain of a man approached from the command post. Master Chief Marcus Thornfield was a legend in special operations circles. 68 years old, but built like he'd been carved from granite. Silver beard trimmed with military precision. Eyes that had seen too much combat in too many places. The Navy Cross ribbon sat prominently on his khaki uniform alongside a cluster of other decorations. Desert Storm, multiple tours. The Battle of Norfolk, where the largest tank engagement since World War II, had turned Iraqi desert into burning metal, an American victory. Sienna snapped a salute. Thornfield returned it with casual precision. "Master Chief." Thornfield studied her face, searching for something, some quality that couldn't be measured by gender or politics. He was looking for the thing that separated warriors from shooters. "Your father and I served together." The words hit Sienna like a physical blow. Her father had never mentioned this man's name, never talked about specific people from Desert Storm beyond generalities about brotherhood and sacrifice. "Sir," he never mentioned. "The best ones never do." Thornfield's weathered face remained impassive. "Your father saved my life at Norfolk, taught me that skill endures when technology fails." "What did he teach you?" Sienna met his eyes. No flinching, no hesitation. "That warriors are forged through discipline, Master Chief. That the warrior makes the weapon deadly, not the other way around." The corner of Thornfield's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Something harder. Something earned through blood and sacrifice. "We'll see." He gestured toward the equipment shed. "Let's get you checked in. Competition starts at 0600 tomorrow." The equipment shed was a treasure trove of military hardware. Long tables displayed rifles that embodied the cutting edge of American engineering. Modern SR-25s with advanced optics packages. Barrett M82s that could punch through armor at 2,000 yards. Precision instruments that cost more than most people's cars. "All right, people, listen up." Thornfield's voice boomed across the shed. 14 men turned to face him. The best snipers from every branch of the military. SEALs, Marine Scout snipers, Army Rangers, Air Force Special Operations. And Sienna, the only woman, the only question mark. We've got 14 competitors this year, Thornfield continued. Mix of services, mix of experience, but all of you are here for the same reason, to prove you're the best marksman in America's arsenal. A young SEAL with Lieutenant Bars stepped forward with a clipboard. He began calling out names and equipment assignments. Lieutenant Commander Garrett Ashford, SR-25 with Schmidt and Bender PM scope. A lean man with calculating eyes stepped forward. Commander Garrett Ashford, call sign Ghost. 4 deployments to Afghanistan, 37 confirmed kills according to whispered stories. He accepted the rifle like it was an extension of his own body. Captain Bradley Anderson, Barrett M82A1 with Leupold Mark V HD. Staff Sergeant Wyatt Brennan, M40A6 with Night Force ATACR. The list continued. Each competitor received weapons matched to their skills. Lieutenant Cade Hollis, custom AR-10 with integrated ballistic computer and thermal optics package. A SEAL in his early 30s stepped forward with barely concealed satisfaction. Lieutenant Cade Hollis, rising star in naval special warfare. He'd made no secret of his opinion that this competition should remain a proving ground for warriors, not a stage for political theater. Hollis examined his rifle with reverence. The optics package alone cost $15,000. It calculated windage automatically, compensated for temperature and humidity, even accounted for the Coriolis effect. Like having a PhD in every shot, Hollis said to the SEAL beside him, loud enough for everyone to hear. Sienna kept her face neutral, showed nothing. Her father had taught her that reaction was weakness. Captain Raid, Sienna stepped forward. Every eye turned toward her. The moment stretched taut. Thornfield reached beneath the table and pulled out a battered green case that looked like it had survived a war. Because it had. The metal clasps were tarnished with age. The canvas covering was frayed and stained with decades of use. Thornfield set it on the table with a heavy thunk. Your rifle, Captain. Sienna opened the case slowly. Inside lay an M24 sniper weapon system. Desert Storm era. The wood stock was scratched and worn smooth by her father's hands. The barrel showed honest use, character earned through combat. And mounted on top was a scope that had clearly seen better days. The mounting bracket was bent at an angle that made it completely unusable, twisted 30 degrees from true. The reticle was completely shattered. Internal mechanisms were visible through cracks in the housing. The shed fell absolutely silent. Sienna ran her fingers along the rifle's receiver, feeling metal that remembered her father's touch. She knew this weapon, had cleaned it under his supervision, had fired it in Montana mountains, where he'd taught her that being a warrior wasn't about equipment. This was her father's rifle, the one he'd carried at the Battle of Norfolk in February 1991. The one he'd used to save 37 Americans during the largest tank engagement since World War II. But the scope was completely unusable. Anyone could see that. Is there a problem, Captain? Thornfield's voice was neutral, but his eyes were challenging her. Sienna examined the scope more closely. The mounting screws that weren't stripped turned easily in her fingers. She removed the damaged optic and set it aside carefully, with reverence. Beneath the scope mount, she found what she was looking for. The rifle's original iron sights. Simple, reliable, no batteries to fail, no glass to fog, no electronics to short circuit, just steel and skill and fundamentals. She worked the action to ensure it functioned smoothly. The bolt moved with well-worn ease. She checked the barrel. Clean, properly maintained. Sienna looked up at Master Chief Thornfield, met his eyes with absolute certainty. No problem, Master Chief. If it was good enough for my father at Norfolk, it's good enough for me here. She chambered an empty round, tested the feel, the weight, the balance. Iron sights will do just fine. The shed erupted, not in approval, in disbelief. Iron sights at 600 yards against our optics? This isn't 1991. Lieutenant Hollis actually laughed. You're going to shoot iron sights against AI-assisted ballistic computers? Ma'am, with all due respect, that's suicide. You won't make it past day one. Commander Ashford studied her with renewed interest. Unlike the others, he wasn't smiling. He was evaluating, calculating. Master Chief Thornfield raised his hand. The shed fell silent immediately. Gentlemen, Captain Raid. His voice carried weight, history, truth. We've spent millions of dollars on technology that makes you better shooters. Computers that calculate what you used to have to learn. Optics that see what you used to have to feel. Electronics that compensate for what you used to have to master. He paused, let the words sink in. But when that technology fails, and it will fail, what's left? The warrior or the machine? His eyes swept across the assembled shooters, then looked at Sienna. Some of us believe the warrior makes the weapon deadly. Others think it's the other way around. He picked up her father's M24. This rifle fought at the Battle of Norfolk in 1991, saved American lives when everything else had failed. Technology broke, radios died, modern weapons jammed from desert sand, but this rifle kept working. Thornfield set the rifle back in its case with reverence. This week, we'll answer a question. Can the old ways still work? Or have we evolved past the fundamentals that forged warriors for 10,000 years? Captain Raid is going to help us find out. He looked at Sienna directly. You've got 30 minutes to zero your weapon on the 100-yard range before dark, Captain. Sienna lifted the rifle case, felt its weight. There was something honest about it, something that didn't make promises it couldn't keep. Need help figuring out how to work it? The voice came from somewhere in the back. More laughter rippled through the shed. Not malicious exactly, just certain, confident. Sienna walked toward the door. Because limitations were only failures if you let them define you. Outside, the California sun was beginning its descent toward the Pacific. The 100-yard range stretched before her like a proving ground. Targets waited in neat rows, simple silhouettes against white backing. Sienna walked to the firing line, set her rifle down carefully, began her pre-shoot routine. The same one her father had taught her when she was 12 years old. Behind her, several competitors had followed outside to watch. They leaned against the shed wall, arms crossed, ready for the show. Sienna ignored them. Built walls in her mind, created a space where only she and the target existed. She loaded 5 rounds, assumed a solid, prone position that her body remembered from 10,000 repetitions, aligned her iron sights on the target 100 yards downrange. No computers calculated windage for her. No laser measured distance. Just her eyes, her breath, her father's voice in her memory. Technology is a crutch, Sienna. Learn to shoot with your heart and your head. Everything else is decoration that fails when you need it most. She exhaled slowly, let her heartbeats settle into the rhythm she'd practiced until it became unconscious. 4 beats per breath cycle. Fire on the natural pause between exhale and inhale. The front sight post aligned with the rear aperture, creating that perfect figure 8. The target sat at the top of her front post, exactly where it needed to be. Sienna's finger caressed the trigger. Not a pull, a squeeze. So gentle it seemed to surprise even her when the M24 roared. The recoil was solid, true, driving straight back into her shoulder with honest force. Downrange, a perfect hole appeared in the 10 ring, center mass. Sienna chambered her second round. Her movements were economical, practiced. The rifle's barrel had warmed slightly from that first shot. At 600 yards tomorrow, that would matter. She made an infinitesimal adjustment, compensating for barrel temperature, then fired again. Another perfect 10-ring hit. Third shot, fourth, fifth. Each one felt correct, felt inevitable. By her 5th shot, the group of spectators had grown silent. The casual mockery had evaporated, replaced by something harder to define. All 5 rounds had clustered within a 2-inch circle at center mass. performance that matched what the others had achieved with their advanced optics and computer-assisted calculations. Sienna stood, cleared her weapon with practiced movements, ejected the magazine, locked the bolt to the rear, visually inspected the chamber, then turned back toward the shed, her face showing nothing. Master Chief Thornfield stood at the edge of the range now, binoculars in hand. Their eyes met across the distance. Thornfield nodded once, barely perceptible. Then he turned and walked away without a word. But that nod said everything. Commander Ashford remained, still studying her. "Where did you learn to shoot like that, Captain?" Sienna shouldered her rifle. "My father, Colonel Garrett Raid, 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment, Battle of Norfolk, 1991. He taught me that real marksmen don't need crutches, sir. They need discipline." Ashford's expression shifted, something that might have been recognition or respect. "He taught you well." A pause. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting, Captain." Sienna walked toward her assigned barracks. Behind her, the sunset painted the ocean in shades of orange and red. The same ocean her father had crossed in 1990, heading toward a war that would define him. He'd survived, had proven the old ways worked, had brought those lessons home and passed them to his daughter. Now it was her turn. Sienna reached her barracks room, small but clean, Spartan. She set her father's rifle on the rack, opened her pack. Inside, carefully wrapped in a Marine Corps flag, was the photograph she always carried. Her father in his dress blues, taken just before his deployment to Desert Storm in 1990. Sienna set the photograph on her footlocker, sat on her bunk. "I did good today, Dad," she whispered. "Tomorrow, we'll see if I can keep it up." Somewhere across the compound, competitors were checking their equipment, calibrating their computers, running diagnostics on optics packages, trusting in technology to give them the edge. Sienna cleaned her father's rifle, used the same techniques he taught her. She disassembled the bolt, cleaned the firing pin channel, swabbed the barrel, inspected every component. Because a weapon was more than a tool. It was a trust, a responsibility to every warrior who'd carried it before. Tomorrow would bring the real test. 600-yard precision shooting. The first time she'd have to prove that iron sights could compete with modern technology. But tonight, she'd already sent a message. Underestimate her at your own risk. And somewhere in Iraqi desert, in a place that had been battlefield 33 years ago, a mission remained unfinished. Master Chief Thornfield had told her the truth after everyone else left the equipment shed. Top 3 finishers deployed to Yemen within 72 hours. Joint Task Force operation. High-value target elimination. The Iraqi general your father tried to eliminate at Norfolk? He's alive. He's the target. This is your chance to finish what your father started 33 years ago. Sienna lay back on her bunk, thought about missions that took 33 years to complete. Tomorrow, she would compete. But she wasn't just shooting for placement or pride. She was shooting to earn the right to finish her father's mission. To take the shot he'd never gotten. To end a threat that should have died in 1991, but had lived to kill 19 Americans in Sana'a, Yemen, in 2023. And nothing would stop her from earning that right. Warriors didn't quit. They adapted. They overcame. They finished the mission regardless of obstacles. She was her father's daughter. And tomorrow, the real competition began. Dawn broke over Naval Special Warfare Command with crystalline clarity. Not a cloud in the sky, minimal wind, perfect visibility. The kind of morning that separated good shooters from great ones. Sienna had been awake since 0430, running through her morning routine with mechanical precision. Physical training, shower, equipment check, breakfast that was pure fuel. Now standing on the firing line at 0545, she could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on every competitor. 14 of the military's best marksmen all gathered for one purpose. Master Chief Thornfield stood at the command post. Behind him, a scoreboard displayed competitor names. Sienna's name sat near the top, a target waiting to be knocked down or elevated. "Gentlemen and Captain Raid," Thornfield's voice boomed across the range. "Welcome to Day 2. Today's challenge tests your ability to engage moving targets at variable distances and speeds." He paused. "Targets will appear at ranges from 400 to 1,000 yards. Speeds from 2 to 15 miles per hour. Directions are computer-controlled and random. You'll have 3 seconds from target appearance to impact. You get 10 attempts total." Sienna glanced down the line at her competition. 3 Navy SEALs stood with their advanced rifles. Lieutenant Commander Ashford was among them, his SR-25 representing cutting-edge optical engineering. Beyond him, Army Rangers and Air Force Special Operators checked ballistic computers and laser systems. And then there was Sienna, holding a rifle that had been obsolete before she was born. Iron sights that her grandfather's generation would have recognized. No computers, no lasers, no electronics. "Shooters will engage in alphabetical order," Thornfield continued. "Captain Anderson, you're up first. Lieutenant Brennan second. Lieutenant Hollis third. Captain Raid fourth." Captain Bradley Anderson was an Army Ranger with a reputation for cold-bore shots. His rifle was a custom AR-10 platform with every upgrade imaginable. He assumed his position. 5 shots rang out in steady succession. The range officer's voice crackled over the loudspeaker. 4 10s, 1 9, total score 49. Solid performance. Anderson stood and nodded, satisfied but not celebrating. Staff Sergeant Wyatt Brennan approached the line next. Marine Scout Sniper. 2 deployments to Afghanistan. His M40A6 was equipped with Night Force ATACR optics. His 5 shots came even faster. 5 10s, perfect score 50. Murmurs of approval rippled through the competitors. Brennan had set the bar high. Now everyone else would be chasing that standard. Lieutenant Cade Hollis stepped to the line with his $15,000 rifle system. His integrated ballistic computer calculated everything automatically. Hollis's 5 shots came quickly, too quickly. 4 10s, 1 8. Total score 48. His expression showed frustration as he cleared his weapon. "Captain Raid, you're up." Sienna walked to the firing line. She set down her shooting mat, assumed a solid prone position, loaded 5 rounds into the M24's magazine, brass cartridges catching morning sun. 600 yards downrange, her first target waited. Through her iron sights, without magnification, it appeared small, barely larger than her thumbnail. But Sienna didn't need magnification. She needed fundamentals. The target appeared suddenly, moving left to right at moderate speed. Her mind processed variables in microseconds. Range 600 yards. Target velocity approximately 8 miles per hour equals roughly 12 feet per second. Bullet flight time 0.7 seconds. Target will travel 8 to 9 feet during flight time, led by approximately 3 feet. Wind 3 miles per hour from west adds maybe 6 inches of drift. Her front sight post led the target by what felt right. She squeezed the trigger. The sensor light illuminated green downrange. Hit. Target 2 appeared at 900 yards, moving perpendicular, faster now. Sienna adjusted her point of aim, leading the target by what looked like an insane amount. She fired. Hit. She moved through the sequence like flowing water, each decision happening faster than conscious thought. Target 3, 500 yards, moving toward her at an angle. Hit. Target 4, 700 yards, erratic movement with speed changes. Sienna watched for half a second longer, identifying the deceleration pattern. Hit. Target 5, 600 yards, moving fast. Hit. Target 6, 800 yards, diagonal movement. Hit. Target 7, 400 yards, close and fast. Hit. Target 8, 1,000 yards, moving slowly but at maximum distance. Hit. The 9th target appeared at maximum range in maximum difficulty. 1,000 yards, moving at 15 miles per hour. Maximum distance meant approximately 1.5 seconds of flight time. Target moving at 15 miles per hour meant 22 feet per second. The lead required was massive. Sienna aimed what felt like a full body length ahead of the silhouette. She fired. The sensor remained dark. Miss. She'd led too far. First miss of the competition. Sienna cleared her mind immediately, refused to dwell on failure. One target remained. The 10th target appeared at 650 yards, moving erratically. Sienna watched for 1 full second, identifying the pattern. The target accelerated for 2 seconds, decelerated for 1 second, repeated. She waited for the deceleration phase, aimed where it would be during the slow portion. Fired. Hit. 9 hits, 1 miss, the range officer announced. Captain Raid ties Staff Sergeant Brennan for Day 2 lead. The range fell into stunned silence. Tying the competition's best Marine shooter while using iron sights exceeded what anyone had expected. Commander Ashford shot next. He managed 9 hits, same as Sienna and Brennan. Excellent performance. Lieutenant Hollis followed. His shots were rushed, hurried. He scored 8 hits. His frustration was visible. The remaining competitors shot through the morning. Results ranged from 5 to 9 hits. During the lunch break, Sienna found Ashford near the equipment shed. He was cleaning his rifle with careful attention. "Hell of a performance out there, Captain," Ashford said. "That 9th target was nearly impossible. I missed it too." "You practiced yesterday afternoon, though." The words came out more accusatory than Sienna intended. Ashford looked up sharply. "Wait, you practiced yesterday too, right?" They ran familiarization sessions from 1,400 to 1,700 hours. Sienna's expression darkened slightly. "I wasn't informed there were practice sessions, Commander. Just showed up this morning and shot cold." Ashford's face hardened. "That's not right. That's deliberate sabotage. Everyone should have been notified. Everyone should have had equal preparation time." He set down his cleaning rod. "What else has gone wrong? What else have they done to stack the deck against you?" Sienna hesitated. Pride versus pragmatism warring inside her. "Someone took 15 rounds from my ammunition last night, broke into my quarters. I found fresh scratches on my door lock. 15 rounds missing from my 50-round supply." Ashford stood, his expression serious. "Did you report it?" "I've documented everything, photographed the lock scratches, counted the remaining ammunition, but I haven't filed a formal report yet. Didn't want to seem like I'm making excuses." Ashford's voice softened slightly. "Report it now, today. This isn't about special treatment, Sienna. This is about integrity. Tampering with a competitor's equipment is grounds for immediate disqualification and possible criminal charges." He gestured toward the range where the scoreboard still displayed her tied first-place position. "You shot 9 out of 10 moving targets with iron sights and no practice time. That's borderline miraculous. You've already proven yourself. Now let the system work." Sienna considered his words. "I'll report it to Master Chief Thornfield before 1,700 hours today." "Good." Ashford returned to his rifle, then added quietly, "That shooting this morning was some of the best I've ever seen, Captain. That's skill that can't be taught. That's instinct earned through years of discipline." That afternoon at 16:30 hours, Sienna reported everything to Master Chief Thornfield in his office. His face remained impassive as he took notes with meticulous care, but his eyes showed cold fury. 15 rounds missing from your ammunition supply." Thornfield repeated the number. "Fresh scratches on your door lock, indicating forced entry. And you were not notified about practice sessions that every other competitor attended." "Yes, Master Chief, all documented." "And you're reporting this now, a full day after discovering the ammunition theft, because?" "I didn't want to seem like I was making excuses, sir." Thornfield leaned back in his chair. "Captain Raid, let me be crystal clear. Reporting sabotage is not making excuses. It's reporting a crime. There is no universe in which stealing a competitor's ammunition and denying them practice time constitutes a fair competition. He stood, walked to the window overlooking the range where tomorrow's storm was already visible on the horizon. I'll have security review all barracks footage. I'll personally inspect your equipment going forward, and I'll ensure you receive notice of all future practice sessions. This ends now. Thank you, Master Chief. Don't thank me, Captain. This is basic integrity. He turned back to face her. You shot 9 out of 10 moving targets today with iron sights and 0 practice time. Your performance is exceptional. Your father would be proud. Sienna felt emotion welling up, but forced it down. There's something else you should know. Thornfield's voice dropped lower. I haven't told you the full story about your father and me, about what really happened at Norfolk. Sienna's breath caught. Sir? Sit down, Captain. This might take a few minutes. Sienna sat. Thornfield returned to his desk but didn't sit. He stood looking at something beyond the walls of his office. February 1991. Battle of Norfolk. Third day of the ground war. We thought we'd won already. We were wrong. His hands gripped the edge of his desk. Republican Guard counterattack caught 2nd Armored Cavalry in a kill zone. We were getting hammered. Couldn't establish comms with higher command. Couldn't call for artillery support. We were on our own and losing. Thornfield's voice took on the quality of someone reciting sacred text. There was an Iraqi commander coordinating the ambush from a position we couldn't identify. Professional, deadly effective. They were going to destroy our column if we couldn't eliminate him. But we couldn't find him through the smoke. He paused. Your father was a forward observer attached to my tank company. 35 years old, experienced, steady. When our sniper team took a direct hit from Iraqi artillery, your father grabbed the M24. No orders, no discussion, just saw what needed to be done and did it. Thornfield's voice cracked slightly. 850 yards through oil fire smoke that made visibility almost 0. Your father put that Iraqi commander down. One shot, iron sights. No laser rangefinder, no ballistic computer, just skill and will. He met Sienna's eyes directly. That shot broke the ambush. But he didn't stop there. He identified 11 more Republican Guard soldiers attempting to flank our position. Your father eliminated all 11 of them. 11 shots, 11 kills, ranges from 400 to 900 yards through conditions that made seeing targets almost impossible. Thornfield's voice strengthened. Your father's shooting that day saved 37 Americans. I was one of them. Tank commander, 35 years old, certain I was going to die in that desert. Your father's skill was the difference between me standing here and being a name on a memorial wall. Sienna felt tears threatening, but kept them contained. The good ones carry it quiet. Thornfield moved around his desk, sat down. But you need to know something else. Your father was recommended for the Silver Star that day. The paperwork was submitted properly. But during the chaos after the ceasefire, the paperwork got lost. He never received his medal. Thornfield opened a drawer, pulled out a file folder. That's one reason I brought you here, Captain. Not just to compete, but to finish what should have been completed 33 years ago. Sienna stared at the folder. When this competition is over, regardless of how you place, there's going to be a ceremony. I've spent the last 3 years tracking down surviving witnesses from Norfolk, collecting new statements. Your father is finally going to receive his Silver Star, and I want you to be there to accept it on his behalf. Tears came now. Sienna couldn't stop them. He would be so proud, Master Chief. He should be proud of you, Captain. Thornfield stood, handed her a tissue. You're carrying his legacy forward. You're proving that the skills he mastered still matter. He moved to the window again. Tomorrow is day 3. Weather forecast is calling for hell. Heavy rain, high winds. Your iron sights might actually give you an advantage when everyone else's electronics start failing. Get some rest tonight, Thornfield continued. And Captain, watch your back. Whoever's sabotaging you isn't going to stop. They're escalating, and people who feel threatened do desperate things. That evening, Sienna sat in her barracks with the door locked and a chair wedged under the handle. She cleaned her father's rifle with extra care, inspected every round of her remaining ammunition. Everything appeared normal. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Tomorrow would bring day 3. A storm. Conditions that would test every shooter's limits. But Sienna had been training for storms her entire life. In Montana mountains, where her father had taught her to shoot in fog and snow, and conditions that made seeing impossible. She lay back on her bunk, stared at her father's photograph. "They're trying to break me, Dad," she whispered. "But you taught me that the only person who can break you is yourself. Everyone else can only create obstacles. And warriors don't avoid obstacles, they overcome them." Tomorrow, the real test would come. Not just shooting, but shooting in conditions designed to make accuracy impossible. And somewhere in the shadows, someone who wanted her to fail was planning their next move. But Sienna was her father's daughter, and warriors didn't quit when obstacles appeared. Sleep came slowly, but when it came, it brought dreams of storms and iron sights, and a shot her father never got to take 33 years ago in Iraqi desert. And in 3 more days, if she earned it, she would finish what he'd started. Day 3 arrived with a vengeance. Sienna woke at 03:30 to the sound of wind howling against the barracks. Through her window, she could see palm trees bending at impossible angles, their fronds whipping frantically in gusts that would later clock at 32 miles per hour, with peaks exceeding 40. Rain didn't fall so much as attack, driven horizontally by winds that transformed water into weapons. Any reasonable person would have canceled today's competition. But Master Chief Marcus Thornfield wasn't a reasonable person. By 0600, 14 competitors stood on the coastal firing range in full rain gear that was already soaked through. The range had been relocated overnight to a clifftop position overlooking the ocean, where wind patterns were notoriously unpredictable. Sienna could taste salt on her lips, could feel wind trying to physically push her off balance. This was weather at its most hostile, conditions that separated warriors from shooters. Day 3, Thornfield's voice somehow boomed over the storm. Today is about adaptation. Combat doesn't wait for perfect weather. Your enemy attacks when conditions favor him and hurt you. He gestured toward targets barely visible through rain and mist. Distances from 600 to 1,200 yards, 5 targets total. Variable wind conditions. Your equipment will be tested. Your skills will be tested. Most importantly, your mind will be tested. Several shooters were already struggling before the competition even began. Rain hammered their advanced optics, creating condensation inside supposedly sealed scopes. Water droplets on external lenses distorted sight pictures. Fogging that wouldn't clear. Lieutenant Hollis's expensive ballistic computer flickered and died as Sienna watched. Moisture had penetrated the waterproof casing. $15,000 of technology reduced to useless weight. Commander Ashford stood stoic, his SR-25 wrapped in a waterproof rain cover, but Sienna could see tension in his shoulders. Staff Sergeant Brennan looked frustrated, constantly adjusting his Night Force scope as water droplets created optical aberrations. And then there was Sienna, standing in the deluge with her father's M24 and its simple iron sights. No electronics to short circuit, no glass to fog, no batteries to fail, just steel and wood and fundamentals. Due to weather conditions, Thornfield announced, anyone who wishes to withdraw can do so without penalty. Your Day 3 score will be recorded as your average from Days 1 and 2. 2 competitors immediately stepped forward, an Army Ranger and an Air Force sniper. There was no shame in their decision, just pragmatism. 13 remained. Lieutenant Briggs, you're first. Briggs was a SEAL with 3 combat deployments. His rifle was state-of-the-art. Yesterday it would have given him overwhelming superiority. Today it was betraying him. Through the spotting scope, Sienna watched his first shot go wide by several feet. The ballistic computer had given him catastrophically bad data. By his 5th shot, he'd scored only 2 hits out of 5 possible. He stood from the line clearly frustrated. The storm was winning. Second shooter managed 3 hits. Third shooter, only 1 hit before his scope fogged so badly he couldn't see targets at all. Captain Rady, you're up. Sienna moved to the line, her M24 slick with rain, but functioning perfectly. She assumed prone position, feeling cold water soak immediately through her uniform. Through her iron sights, she could barely see the first target at 600 yards through rain and mist. The world had turned into gradations of gray. But visibility wasn't everything. Sometimes it was barely anything at all. Sienna closed her eyes, felt the wind against her face. It came from the west, hard and steady with weight of ocean behind it, with slight upward component as air hit the cliff face. Her father's voice echoed in memory. When you can't see, you feel. The wind talks to you if you listen. Trust your senses. They're older than technology. Sienna opened her eyes, made calculations based on feel more than formulas. Wind 40 miles per hour from 270 degrees at 600 yards. The bullet would drift massively right without compensation. She aimed 3 feet left of the target, so far off that to anyone watching, it looked like she was aiming at nothing. She fired. 600 yards downrange, the bullet curved through the storm in a parabolic arc. The round punched dead center into the silhouette. The range officer's voice carried genuine surprise. Hit. Center mass. Even the observation bunker had gone quiet. Sienna chambered her second round. The second target was at 800 yards. The wind had shifted. Northwest now, stronger, maybe 45 miles per hour. She adjusted her point of aim even further left and higher. Hit. Third target, 1,000 yards. The rain intensified into a gray wall that made seeing impossible. Sienna waited, breathing slowly, feeling for a lull in the wind. There, perhaps 2 seconds, a brief window. She fired immediately. Hit. Fourth target, 1,200 yards, 3/4 of a mile through Pacific storm. The maximum effective range of her rifle, even in perfect conditions. Sienna's calculations became pure instinct. Lead left. Compensate up and right for thermal effects. Fire during the microsecond pause between. Sienna studied it for 10 full seconds, gathering information. She watched how rain fell, how mist moved at different elevations. She aimed what seemed like 5 feet from the target. Sienna squeezed the trigger one final time. The bullet curved through space and storm, following a path that looked impossible. Hit. 5 for 5. Perfect score for Captain Raid in storm conditions. The competitors watching from the observation bunker fell into stunned silence. Then Commander Ashford started a slow clap that others gradually joined. Even Lieutenant Hollis stood with his mouth slightly open, staring at the target verification display. The competition continued through the morning, but the outcome was already determined. Ashford managed 3 hits out of 5. Brennan struggled with fogged optics and scored only 2 hits. Hollis's dead computer left him shooting blind. He scored 0 hits. By noon, when Thornfield finally called a halt, the standings had shifted dramatically. First place, Captain Sienna Raid, perfect score in impossible conditions. Second place, Lieutenant Commander Garrett Ashford. Third place, Staff Sergeant Wyatt Brennan. As competitors filed toward vehicles, several approached Sienna. Their skepticism had evaporated. Captain, Staff Sergeant Brennan extended his hand. I owe you an apology. I didn't think iron sights could compete with modern optics. I was wrong. That shooting was beyond anything I've ever witnessed. Thank you, Sergeant. Others followed with similar acknowledgments. Quiet nods, requests to learn techniques, The tide had turned completely. But not everyone was pleased. Lieutenant Hollis stormed past without a word, his face dark with anger. His expensive equipment had failed. His assumptions about technology superiority had been demolished. Commander Ashford caught up with Sienna near the transport vehicles. "Hell of a shooting back there, Captain. How did you do it? You couldn't even see the targets clearly." "Sometimes you don't need to see everything, Commander. You just need to feel what matters. My father taught me that in Montana mountains where technology was useless and instinct was everything." Ashford studied her with renewed respect. "Your father taught you well. Tomorrow is day 4, night shooting. Your iron sights will be at severe disadvantage. Everyone else has thermal imaging and night vision equipment. You'll be shooting essentially blind." "Nearly blind, Commander, not completely blind. Just be careful. Watch your back. Whoever's sabotaging you is escalating. After your performance today, they're going to be desperate." That evening, Sienna sat in her barracks with chair wedged under the door handle. She checked every piece of equipment, inspected her remaining ammunition. Everything appeared normal. But the feeling of danger wouldn't go away. Tomorrow would bring darkness and the most difficult challenge yet. Night shooting where iron sights faced overwhelming disadvantage against technology specifically designed to defeat darkness. But she'd been training for this her entire life. She stared at his photograph. "One more day, Dad, then the final test. Then we find out if I've earned the right to finish what you started." Day 4 arrived with darkness that seemed absolute. Sienna woke at 0400 to prepare, but preparation for shooting in total darkness with iron sights seemed almost futile. By 1930 hours, the sun had set over the Pacific. Full darkness descended. No moon, cloud cover blocking the stars. The kind of primal darkness that city dwellers never experienced. 13 competitors stood on the night firing range. Thermal imaging scopes glowed with faint electronic light. Night vision devices cast eerie green illumination. Laser rangefinders were tested, electronics humming with power. Every shooter had technology specifically designed for darkness. Every shooter except Sienna. Her M24 had no mounting rails for night vision, no thermal capability, no electronic aids whatsoever. Master Chief Thornfield's voice carried across the range. Day 4 tests your ability to operate in denied environments. Night combat, no ambient light beyond starlight, which tonight is blocked. Targets at ranges from 400 to 1200 yards. He paused. Tonight we add complexity, hostage situations. You'll see silhouettes, some hostile, some civilian. You must identify friend from foe, engage threats, preserve innocent lives. Shoot a hostage and you're disqualified immediately. Sienna's stomach tightened. This wasn't just about shooting, it was about judgment, about life and death decisions compressed into heartbeats. You'll have 3 seconds per scenario to assess and engage. 8 scenarios total. Captain Raid, Thornfield's voice carried careful neutrality. You're aware your equipment lacks night vision capability. Yes, Master Chief. You're authorized to withdraw without penalty. Your Day 4 score would be calculated as your average from previous days. Given your performance so far, that would still maintain your lead. Every eye turned toward her in the darkness. "Ma'am," Ashford's voice came from nearby, concerned. "This isn't like the storm. In daylight, you could at least see the targets. In this darkness with iron sights, it's not just difficult, it's nearly impossible." "Nearly impossible, Commander, not completely impossible." Sienna thought back to one of her father's final lessons before he'd gotten sick. He'd taken her to the mountains at midnight. No moon, clouds covering what few stars might have been visible. "Turn off your flashlight," he'd said. "I can't see anything. It's completely black." "Not yet. Give your eyes time. Let them adjust. Human eyes are better than you think. We've just forgotten how to use them." They'd waited in silence for 30 minutes, her father patient and still, Grace fidgeting and frustrated. But gradually, impossibly, the darkness had revealed itself. Not as daylight, but as gradations of shadow, shapes emerging from nothing. "I'm shooting, Master Chief." Thornfield nodded once. "Shooters will engage in reverse order of current standings. Captain Raid, you're last tonight. You shoot at approximately 2200 hours. That gave her 2.5 hours to watch others perform, to study the scenarios, but most importantly, to let her eyes adapt to complete darkness. Sienna found a position at the back of the observation area, away from any light sources. She closed her eyes for 10 full minutes, then opened them slowly, letting her pupils dilate fully. Ancient mechanisms that predator species had used for millions of years. Ashford went first. His night vision equipment allowed him to identify and engage targets with impressive accuracy. She watched his performance on monitors. Professional, competent. He completed 8 scenarios successfully, missing only 2. Brennan managed 6 successful scenarios. Solid performance. Hollis managed only 4 scenarios. His equipment worked perfectly, but his judgment was compromised by anger. As each shooter performed, Sienna studied everything. Where targets appeared, patterns in their placement, timing sequences. Most importantly, she let her eyes continue adapting. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes of progressive darkness adaptation. "Captain Raid, you're up." Sienna walked to the firing line at 21:47 hours. Her M24 felt heavier than usual. Or perhaps that was just the weight of impossibility. She assumed her position, loaded her rifle, waited for the first scenario. The range lights that had been providing minimal ambient illumination died completely. Absolute darkness descended. Sienna closed her eyes for 10 full seconds, then opened them slowly. The world wasn't black anymore. It was deep gray with hints of definition. She could see the outline of the scenario area, the vague shapes of building facades, the rectangular frames where targets would appear. "Scenario 1, the range officer's voice announced. 3 silhouettes at 600 yards, 2 hostile, 1 civilian. Identify and engage." 3 shapes materialized in the darkness, barely visible, more suggestion than substance. The leftmost shape held something angular, a rifle, judging by the projection. Center shape had hands raised, no weapon visible. Defensive posture. Rightmost shape had weapons shouldered, aggressive stance. Left target first. Sienna aligned her iron sights using muscle memory more than vision. She fired. Hit confirmed by the electronic sensor. Right target immediately. She shifted aim. Fired. Hit. 2 seconds had elapsed. The hostage remained standing. Scenario 1 complete. Scenario 2 appeared at 800 yards. 4 silhouettes this time. 3 civilians, 1 hostile. The hostile was crouched behind a civilian, using the innocent as a shield. Sienna waited, watching for movement. The hostile shifted slightly, exposing his shoulder and head for a fraction of a second. She fired into that narrow space. Hit. Hostage unharmed. Scenario 3. 5 silhouettes at 1,000 yards. Sienna could barely see them as anything more than dark spots. Movement, shapes, but no details. She watched for 2 full seconds, burning time but gathering information. 2 hostiles, 3 civilians. She identified targets, engaged. 2 shots, 2 hits. Civilians safe. By Scenario 7, Sienna had entered a state beyond conscious thought. Her shooting had become pure instinct, eyes processing minimal light available, mind calculating angles and distances, hands moving the rifle before her brain fully registered the decisions. She was operating on a level that transcended technique, the same state her father had achieved at Norfolk when conscious thought would have been too slow. Scenario 8, the range officer's voice carried unusual gravity. Target at 1,200 yards. Hostage situation. Low light conditions. Partial obstruction. Sienna strained her eyes into the darkness. 1,200 yards. Nearly 3/4 of a mile in near total darkness. She could barely see the scenario area. Then she saw it. movement, the smallest shift in shadow density, a hostile silhouette behind a hostage, position so any shot risked hitting the innocent. Her father's voice echoed in memory. Sometimes you don't shoot what you see, you shoot what you know is there. Trust the fundamentals. Sienna couldn't see the target clearly enough to aim conventionally, but she'd watched 8 other shooters attempt this scenario. She knew where the hostile had to be positioned based on the scenario's geometry. She aimed at empty darkness, trusting mathematics over vision. She fired into blackness. 3 heartbeats of silence. Then the sensor light illuminated. Green. Hit confirmed. Hostage secure. Scenario 8 complete. The range erupted. Even competitors who'd been skeptical all week were standing now, voices raised in disbelief and admiration. Perfect score! 8 scenarios, 8 successful completions, 0 hostage casualties. Captain Raid extends her lead with performance that will be studied for generations. Ashford was the first to reach her. That last shot, Sienna, you couldn't even see the target. How? I didn't need to see it, sir. I knew where it had to be. Mathematics, geometry. Some truths exist whether you can see them or not. The scoreboard updated. First place, Captain Sienna Raid, leading by a margin that now seemed absolutely insurmountable. Second place, Commander Ashford. Third place, Staff Sergeant Brennan. Fourth place, Lieutenant Hollis. As competitors dispersed into the night, Thornfield approached Sienna privately. Tomorrow is the final day. Live fire urban combat simulation. Most complex scenario we've ever designed. Multiple threats. Split-second decisions under maximum stress. I'll be ready, Master Chief. I know you will, Reeves paused. But there's something you need to know. We've been reviewing security footage from the past few days. We haven't identified who's been sabotaging you yet, but we're close. Tonight, sleep somewhere else. Use Ashford's room. He's volunteered. Don't tell anyone where you're bunking. Sienna's jaw tightened. You think they'll escalate again? I think people who feel cornered do desperate things. And after your performance today, someone is very cornered. That night, Sienna slept in Ashford's quarters, with her rifle beside the bed and her ammunition locked in a case she'd rigged with fishing line. If anyone tried to open it, she'd know. But the attack didn't come through her equipment. It came through her ammunition supply in the armory. At 0300 hours, Sienna woke to her phone buzzing. Thornfield's name on the screen. Captain, get to the armory, now! We have a situation. Sienna arrived to find military police surrounding the building. Thornfield stood at the entrance, his face carved from stone. Someone accessed the armory at 0230, tampered with ammunition supplies. We've identified the individual on security footage. He pulled up a tablet, showed her the video. A woman in civilian clothes, mid-40s, moving through the armory with purpose. Dr. Jennifer Calloway, competition psychologist, supposedly here to ensure fair play. Sienna's breath caught. The psychologist? Why would she? Her husband was Marine Captain Derek Calloway, killed in the 2023 Sanaa embassy bombing, one of the 19 Americans. Thornfield's voice hardened. She blames your father, believes if he'd eliminated the Iraqi general at Norfolk in 1991, the general wouldn't have lived to orchestrate the Sanaa attack. She's been trying to stop you from deploying to Yemen. If you don't qualify, you can't finish your father's mission. You can't eliminate the target. Where is she now? In custody. MPS arrested her an hour ago, but not before she contaminated your ammunition. Every round you had stored here has been compromised. Damaged primers, wrong powder loads, could cause misfires or worse. Sienna's hands clenched into fists. Day 5 starts in 3 hours. I know. Thornfield gestured to a secure locker. Fresh ammunition, from the most secure stock we have. I've personally inspected every round, but you won't have time to test it, to verify it matches your rifle's characteristics. I'll make it work, Master Chief. I know you will. Thornfield met her eyes. Callaway's sabotage is over, but the damage is done. You're going into the final day with untested ammunition. That's a significant disadvantage. Warriors adapt, Master Chief. My father taught me that. Day 5 arrived with Sienna's hands still trembling from adrenaline and anger, not fear. Anger at someone who tried to destroy her chance to finish her father's mission through sabotage and cowardice. By 0600, 13 competitors stood in the staging area for the final challenge. Thornfield had announced Callaway's arrest publicly, the sabotage, the reasoning behind it. Several competitors approached Sienna with apologies and respect. Even Hollis, pride finally set aside, offered his hand. You earned this, Captain, fair and square, despite everything working against you. I'd appreciate the chance to learn from you. Of course, Lieutenant. Thornfield's voice boomed across the range. Day 5, final competition, live fire urban combat simulation. You'll navigate a mock city environment, multiple buildings, civilians, hostiles, high-value targets. Everything designed to test what you've learned this week. He gestured toward the elaborate training facility. Course completion time is 60 minutes maximum. Fail to complete within that window, and you're disqualified. Shoot a civilian anywhere in the course, immediate disqualification. Fail to eliminate a high-value target, major point deduction. His eyes found Sienna's. Due to sabotage discovered this morning involving tampering with Captain Raid's ammunition, she's been provided fresh rounds from secured stock. I'm stating this publicly so everyone understands. Someone crossed a line from competition to criminal action. Shooters will engage in alphabetical order. Captain Anderson first, Lieutenant Brennan second, Captain Raid third. Anderson completed 6 of 10 scenarios successfully. Brennan managed 7 completions, but had hesitated on a critical hostage rescue. The simulated civilian had died. Captain Raid, you're up. Sienna stepped to the entry point, her M24 loaded with the replacement ammunition. Her heart rate controlled through breathing. Her mind clear despite the sabotage. The buzzer sounded. She entered the urban maze. Immediately, her training took over. Movement techniques learned at Quantico. She moved along walls, using cover, rifle at ready position, scanning for threats. The first scenario appeared without warning. 2 hostiles at 40 yards in a simulated market area. Civilians scattered throughout. Grace identified the threats instantly. 2 shots, center mass. 2 hostiles down. Civilians unharmed. Second scenario, building interior, multiple rooms. Sienna cleared each room with precision. Close quarters shooting at 10 yards. 1 shot, hostile down. Then a sudden long-range target appearing at a window 300 yards distant. Sienna dropped to one knee, acquired the target, fired, hit. Third scenario, rooftop sniper at 800 yards partially concealed. Sienna calculated the angle, the slight breeze, adjusted for everything, squeezed the trigger, the target dropped. Then at scenario 4, disaster struck. Sienna chambered a new round and felt the bolt resist. Sluggish. Not quite right. She pulled the trigger on a hostile threat at 200 yards. The rifle jammed. The cartridge had failed to seat properly. One of the replacement rounds. Some microscopic defect that turned reliable ammunition into liability at the worst possible moment. Time didn't stop for malfunctions. The threat remained active. Simulated civilians were in danger. Sienna's hands moved with practiced speed, muscle memory taking over when conscious thought would be too slow. 28 seconds to clear a Type 2 malfunction. Pull charging handle, lock bolt to rear, strip magazine, inspect chamber, a mangled cartridge stuck in the throat. She used her cleaning rod to drive it out, inspected the chamber for damage. None visible. Reloaded with a fresh magazine. Chambered a new round. Reacquired the target. 28 seconds. Most shooters would have panicked. Sienna adapted. She fired. Hit. She continued through the course, her confidence growing. The damaged ammunition had cost her precious time, but she adapted. checked each round before chambering, discarded 2 more suspicious cartridges, shot with what remained. Scenario 7 was the ultimate technical challenge. 3 hostage-takers at 1,000 yards, positioned in different windows of a 3-story building. Obscured positions. The hostages were clearly visible, making any error potentially lethal to innocents. Sienna found a shooting position that gave her optimal angle. Through her iron sights, the targets were barely distinguishable from shadows. She'd spent 4 days learning to shoot what she could barely see. First target, left window, second floor. Aimed, compensated for distance and elevation. Fired. Hit. Second target, right window, third floor. Higher elevation. Adjust. Fire. Hit. Third target, center window, first floor, the most obscured position. The hostage was directly in front of the threat. No room for error. 1 inch wrong, and an innocent died. Sienna waited, watching for movement. Patient, disciplined. The hostile shifted slightly, exposing a narrow angle of vulnerability. Maybe 6 inches of target. She fired into that impossibly small space. Hit. Hostage safe. The final 3 scenarios tested judgment more than marksmanship. Ambiguous situations where threats weren't clearly defined. A figure with a weapon. But was it pointed threateningly or being surrendered? Sienna held fire for 1 crucial second, saw the weapon lower, hands go up, moved past without engaging. Correct. It was a civilian who'd picked up a fallen weapon in panic. 2 figures struggling in close combat, 1 hostile, 1 friendly, impossible to distinguish in the chaos. Sienna couldn't risk the shot from this angle. She moved quickly to a better position, flanking, creating an angle where she could identify the threat by tactical gear. Eliminated him with 1 shot without harming the civilian. The final scenario was deceptively simple. A single hostile at 600 yards. Exposed position, clear shot, easy by any standard. But something felt wrong. Sienna's instincts screamed warning. She studied the situation for several seconds. There, a wire barely visible against the ground running from the hostile's position to a nearby building where civilians sheltered. A trap. Shooting the hostile would trigger an explosive device that would kill innocents. The scenario was testing whether she would think before shooting. Sienna redirected her aim to the wire itself, a target barely thicker than a pencil at 600 yards. The kind of shot that existed in theory, but rarely in practice. Her father's voice whispered in memory, 1 final time. Sometimes the hardest shot is the one that saves lives without taking one. Sienna's breath stilled. The world narrowed to that single thin line. She fired. The wire severed, sparking as the bullet cut through metal. The trap neutralized, civilian saved. Then she eliminated the hostile with her next shot. The exit buzzer sounded. Sienna emerged from the urban environment, her uniform soaked with sweat, her rifle's barrel still warm, but her face showed calm focus. Thornfield stood at the exit with stopwatch and tablet. Time, 42 minutes, 16 seconds. Scenarios completed, 10 of 10. Civilian casualties, 0. High-value targets eliminated. All confirmed. Equipment malfunction overcome in 28 seconds. He looked up from his tablet, met Sienna's eyes. Perfect score, Captain Raid. Despite criminal sabotage designed to make you fail, you've just completed the most difficult combat simulation in naval special warfare history without a single error. The assembled competitors fell silent. Then Ashford started applause that others joined. Even Hollis nodded with genuine respect. Final standings, Thornfield announced. 3rd place with consistently strong performance, Staff Sergeant Wyatt Brennan, United States Marine Corps. Brennan stepped forward, accepted his award with professional grace. 2nd place, demonstrating tactical excellence across all 5 days, Lieutenant Commander Garrett Ashford, United States Navy Naval Special Warfare Command. Ashford stood, shook Thornfield's hand, then caught Sienna's eye. smiled with genuine friendship and respect. In first place, won by a margin that removes all doubt, perfect scores on days 1, 3, 4, and 5, leading performance on day 2. All of this despite equipment sabotage, denied practice time, stolen ammunition, and criminal attempts to force failure. Sienna stood, her heart pounding. Captain Sienna Rady, United States Marine Corps, the first woman to not only compete in, but completely dominate the Naval Special Warfare Advanced Sniper competition. The assembly erupted. Not polite applause, thunderous recognition from warriors who understood exactly what she'd accomplished. Sienna walked to the platform, saluted Master Chief Thornfield, accepted the trophy. Bronze statue of a sniper in prone position. Outstanding performance, Captain. You've made history this week, changed minds, proven truths that some had forgotten. Thank you, sir. I was honoring what my father taught me. But Thornfield wasn't finished. He stepped forward carrying something Sienna hadn't expected. A folded American flag in a small wooden case. Captain Raid, there's one more ceremony, one more honor that's 33 years overdue. He opened the case. Inside, gleaming against blue velvet, lay a Silver Star medal. Your father, Colonel Garrett Raid, served with extraordinary distinction during Operation Desert Storm. February 27, 1991, Battle of Norfolk, Republic of Iraq. Sienna's breath caught. The entire assembly went silent. Iraqi Republican Guard ambush had pinned down American forces. An enemy commander was coordinating the attack, killing Marines methodically. Your father, positioned 400 yards away through smoke and rain, eliminated that commander at 850 yards. One shot, iron sights, perfect execution under impossible conditions. Thornfield's voice grew thick with emotion. Then he identified 11 more enemy soldiers attempting to flank American positions. Eliminated all of them. Ranges from 400 to 900 yards through visibility that made shooting nearly impossible. Saved 37 American lives that day. He paused. I was one of those 37 Marines. Your father's skill was the difference between me standing here and being a name on a memorial wall. Thornfield's voice broke slightly. Your father was recommended for the Silver Star, but paperwork was lost during the chaos. He never received his medal. On behalf of the United States Marine Corps and a grateful nation, it is my honor to present your father's Silver Star, 33 years late, but no less deserved. Tears streamed down Sienna's face as Thornfield pinned the medal to the flag, placed both in her hands. He taught you well, Sienna. You shot exactly the same way he did, with instinct, with fundamentals that outlast technology. And like him, you proved that warriors aren't made by their equipment. They're made by their will. The applause that followed was different, deeper, more reverent. These warriors understood they were witnessing something beyond competition results. As Sienna returned to her seat, carefully cradling her father's flag and medal, Thornfield had one more announcement. Captain Rady, Naval Special Warfare Command would like to offer you a position as Senior Sniper Instructor. First woman to hold this position, responsible for training the next generation of military marksmen. Sienna stood again. I accept with honor and gratitude. But there was more. Ashford approached with deployment orders. Joint Task Force Operation, Yemen, high-value target elimination, deploys in 72 hours, top 3 finishers, Captain Raid, Lieutenant Commander Ashford, Staff Sergeant Brennan. The mission your father started 33 years ago, this is your chance to finish it. Thornfield's final words carried weight. Finish the mission, Echo. For your father, for the 37, for the 19 Americans killed in Sana'a, for every warrior who never got their second chance. 72 hours later, Sienna stood on a rooftop in Sana'a, Yemen. The city spread below her in the pre-dawn darkness. Her father's M24 was loaded, iron sights aligned. 1,400 yards downrange, movement in a window. The high-value target. The Iraqi general who'd escaped Norfolk in 1991, who'd lived to orchestrate the 2023 embassy bombing, who'd killed 19 Americans because he'd survived when he should have died. Ashford's voice crackled in her earpiece. Wind 8 miles per hour, temp 102 degrees Fahrenheit. You have green light. Sienna's whisper was barely audible. For Dad, for the 37, for the 19, for everyone that monster hurt. Breath control, sight picture, father's rifle, father's mission. One shot, one legacy, 33 years to complete. She fired. Screen faded to black before showing impact. Audio only. Ashford's voice filled the darkness. Confirmed. Target eliminated. Mission complete. Welcome home, Echo. Final image. Sienna's face, tears mixing with desert dust, holding her father's silver star. Some missions take 33 years, but warriors never quit, and legacies never die.